Exposed: How a homeless man's heartwarming lesson transformed a billionaire's life in 30 days. Michael never thought he could feel so alone in a tower full of wealth. Surrounded by glass, steel, and echoes of corporate chatter, he looked out of his office window, his heart heavy. There, in Grant Park, families laughed and strolled, children chasing bubbles, couples sharing warm drinks as the icy wind cut through the city. The contrast stung. He had it all: money, power, but all he felt was an unshakable weight of solitude. The expectations of his prestigious lineage wrapped around him like chains, each boardroom closing another door to connection. Point: One evening, after a long day buried in meetings, Michael stepped out into the bitter cold. The wind bit at his skin, but he hardly noticed. As he passed the park, he caught sight of a man sitting on a bench, bundled in worn clothing, surrounded by children. The man's laughter danced on the chilly air, a rich melody that made the world feel warm. Michael was drawn in, like a moth to a gentle flame. The stark joy radiating from Jack was magnetic, something he longed for. Then, Jack's cup of coffee toppled over, spilling liquid gold onto the grimy pavement. The laughter faded as he rushed to gather his belongings. Michael didn't think. He rushed over, offering his hand to help. "Let me get that for you," he said, feeling the warmth of connection spark for the first time in years. Jack looked up, eyes twinkling, and smiled. "Thanks, friend. You're a good one." As their strange friendship blossomed, Michael found himself visiting Jack every week. Their conversations revealed the depths of their lives, different yet painfully similar. Jack's resilience was born from countless disappointments, while Michael's ambition was a gilded cage. Jack spoke of his family, long lost to a life of poverty, and Michael shared stories of success, yet always marked by emptiness. They found solace in each other, but shadows lingered in Michael's mind. Doubts about his motives crept in. "Is this a publicity stunt?" Jack suddenly asked one day, his voice hardened. A fissure formed. "If you're just using me to look good, that's low." Stung, Michael struggled to explain his genuine desire for connection. Painful silence thickened the air and their bond frayed, lost in misunderstandings. Before they could reconcile, fate drew them to a community event where Michael was due to speak about philanthropy. An audience of skeptical faces stared back as he took the stage. Fear gripped him. What did he know about their struggles, really? In a moment of raw vulnerability, he spoke from his heart. "I have everything you could imagine in wealth, yet I feel completely alone." His voice quivered. "I've built walls around me, fearing that others might see the truth beneath my title." The crowd listened, captivated. Jack's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and hope bubbling within him. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Just as Michael began to feel a glimmer of hope, a journalist in the crowd threw a dart of doubt. Can wealth really understand the struggles of poverty? The question hung heavy in the air like a dark cloud. Michael's heart raced. Jack's skepticism was like a chasm forming between them once more. As their lives intertwined on that stage, the city seemed to pause, holding its breath. Would Jack find it within himself to trust Michael again? Would Michael redefine success not just as wealth but as meaningful connection? Both stood at a precipice, facing the choice that would determine the course of their destinies. Would they step forward into the light or retreat back into their shadows? Michael felt the crowd's weight, each questioning gaze like an icy breeze against his skin. He saw Jack's face shift, uncertainty flashing across it. A million thoughts raced through his mind: doubts, fears, that old familiar loneliness pressing down on him. But amid the chaos, he sensed a flicker of something else rising inside him. Courage? Or desperation? He couldn't tell. "Let me tell you something," he said, his voice a little steadier now. "Wealth doesn't insulate you from pain. It can't purchase genuine connections or erase the loneliness of a high-rise office. I've felt the bite of isolation just as deeply, maybe deeper, than some of you." He caught Jack's eye, willing him to understand. "I'm not here just to talk about charity. I'm here to listen, to learn." Silence fell over the crowd. Even the murmurs from the back faded. A single mother shifted in her seat, her brows furrowed, perhaps pondering his words. Michael took a breath, his heart thudding loud enough for everyone to hear. "If you give me a chance, I want to work with you, not just as your benefactor, but as a partner in understanding." Suddenly, he felt the walls he had built starting to crack. Questions sprung to life in the audience. "What do you really know about struggle?" came a voice from the left. "Will you really make a difference?" The queries were sharp, cutting through the murky doubts. Michael nodded, each question reminding him how far he had strayed from true humanity. "I understand that the challenges you face are real, far beyond my own experiences. But I'm willing to listen and support." Jack's expression softened, a hint of that earlier trust returning. The audience leaned in. There was hope lurking in the air, and it moved like a current through the room. People started to nod, sharing glances that spoke of potential. Michael pressed on, "I want to hear your stories, your struggles. And together, we can find solutions that matter." For every skeptical face in the crowd, he saw a hint of resilience mirrored in Jack. A tiny flame of belief flickered among the collective hearts. Was this what Michael had been missing? A connection rooted in shared experiences, rather than a chasm defined by wealth and poverty. After the event, the crowd dispersed, leaving a haze of chatter and lingering skepticism. Jack walked over, hands shoved deep into his pockets. "You could have left me behind," he said quietly, the tension still lingering between them. "But you didn't." "I don't want to," Michael replied, vulnerability coloring his voice. "I want to know you, Jack. You've taught me things I could never buy. And I want to return the favor." Jack nodded slowly, processing the weight of those words. "It's going to take more than words, Michael. You will have to show me that you mean it." A challenge, Michael realized, but one he was ready for. With every step toward real connection with Jack, he felt those chains loosening. "But where do we start?" Michael asked, his enthusiasm beginning to spark again. Jack looked at him, a mix of determination and kindness in his eyes. "Let us start by making a real difference together. We can head into the neighborhoods. Get our hands dirty." A thrill shot through Michael, a wave of excitement mixing with apprehension. "Together," he echoed, the promise ringing like a bell. Just then, the crowd shifted, and an unexpected familiar face pushed to the forefront: his father. The well-dressed man seemed out of place, yet his presence pierced the air with unresolved tension, judgment flashing in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" Michael asked, his voice suddenly shaky. And as the crowd's murmurs swelled around them, Michael realized the ultimate test of his rebirth was only just beginning. Would he choose family loyalty over newfound purpose? A deep breath filled the space, heavy with uncertainty and expectation. In that moment, the path ahead split further, leading to choices that could shatter or heal. Would Michael step into this unfamiliar light or retreat into the comforting shadows of his past? Michael's heart raced, trapped between his father's piercing gaze and the anxious energy of the crowd. The air around him thickened, the collective suspense feeling almost suffocating. "Why are you here?" he repeated, desperation lacing his voice. The casual ease he felt just moments before faded, leaving him vulnerable. His father straightened his tie, a habit when his patience wore thin. "I came to see what nonsense you're involved in this time," he replied, his tone a blend of disdain and raw concern. "Do you really think these people will change? They're just taking advantage of you." Michael's breath hitched. Part of him wanted to retreat, to shield himself from the judgment and the familiar pull of his father's expectations. Yet another part, one that had begun to emerge during the event, pushed back. You don't understand. They're not just these people. They have stories. They have battles they fight every day, battles I want to help with. A murmur rippled through the spectators. Some tilted their heads, intrigued, others linked arms, as if to shield themselves from the tension brewing at the front. Jack remained at Michael's side, unwavering, a silent testament to this burgeoning alliance. Helping them? His father scoffed. You can't save everyone. This is just another publicity stunt, isn't it? Throwing money at problems won't magically solve them. Michael clenched his fists, a familiar anger bubbling to the surface. He fought to steady his voice. You think I'm doing this for the publicity? I'm doing this because I've realized that our wealth doesn't mean anything if it isn't connected to genuine understanding. I don't want to just write checks, I want to build relationships. Relationships? His father's scoff dripped with skepticism. You? You have no idea what they go through. A piercing silence enveloped them once more, hanging heavy. Jack stepped forward, his voice calm yet resolute. You'd be surprised what Michael understands when he actually listens. This isn't about saving anyone. It's about honesty and connection. Isn't that what the world needs more of? The glimmer of hope that had lit the crowd's eyes began to flicker. Michael could practically feel the shift, their alliance, forged in vulnerability, growing stronger, but his father, unwilling to relent, shook his head, a stern expression darkening his features. You're making a mistake. All I've ever wanted was a future for you in our world, not this charity project. Michael felt the sting of betrayal curl around him. The prospect of his father pulling him back into the world he fought to escape loomed large. The pressure clawed at the edges of his resolve. A shadow of doubt crept in, threatening to unravel the progress he had made. I don't know what I want just yet, Michael finally admitted, the words tumbling out before he could catch them. But I do know that I can't turn my back on these people, on Jack. The sincerity flowed through him, anchoring him to his decision. Jack glanced sideways, a flicker of encouragement in his gaze. Michael turned back to the waiting audience, unfamiliar faces, each bearing a history, filled with confusion, expectations, and perhaps a sliver of hope. I'm still figuring this out, he continued, the energy shifting like a tide pulled by the moon. But I want to do it with you, not alone. Together, we can find a way forward that means something. A future that's inclusive. The crowd reacted, whispers like a distant melody, growing stronger. Yet, Michael's heart lingered on another question, louder than the rest. What would his father choose, this world or the one he wanted for Michael? Before he could catch his breath, he felt a hand clasp around his wrist, Jack's, steady and reassuring. In that brief moment, Michael saw a flicker of both fear and possibility in Jack's eyes, a silent question that lingered between them. Would they both have the strength to reject the shadows of their pasts? As the murmurs began to fade into hesitant applause, the weight of his choices loomed large. Each was a step deeper into the unknown, and Michael wondered if he could truly embrace this new vision, one filled with uncertainty but pulsing with potential. Suddenly, Jack leaned in closer, his voice a mere whisper. What will you do when you face the harsh reality of this journey? What happens when it gets tough? In that moment, Michael understood it was not merely about purpose, it was about resilience. Would he have what it took to weather the storms ahead, or would he crumble under the weight of expectation? As a single clap echoed before the crowd erupted, Michael realized the real journey was just beginning, and not just with Jack, but within himself. The applause cascaded like a wave, breaking the tension that had crackled in the air. It was a welcome sound, yet it felt distant, separate from the storm brewing inside Michael. People were smiling, clapping, but within him, a war raged on. He watched his father, arms crossed and lips a firm line, and the conflicting emotions churned inside him like a tempest. What happens when it gets tough? Jack's question echoed in his mind. Toughness was inevitable. This path held no guarantees, just uncertainty, but perhaps that was a necessary cost to effect real change. As the crowd began to settle, Michael caught the gaze of an older woman, seated near the front, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a faded handbag. A wistful smile broke across her face, and something within him shifted. Her expression reflected a glimmer of hope, a longing for connection that transcended societal barriers. This was what he wanted. "What do you see?" Jack asked softly, nudging him back to the moment. "I see people," Michael replied, his voice barely a whisper, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "I see stories waiting to be told." Jack nodded in understanding, and there, amidst the chaos, a shared commitment solidified between them. What if every story they uncovered added a thread to the tapestry of their endeavor? Maybe they could create something life-changing not just for others, but for themselves too. Before they could share another thought, Michael's father stepped forward, his expression steely. "I don't want you to get hurt, Michael," he said, the unfamiliar tremor beneath his bravado evident. "This is a fragile world you're stepping into." His voice softened but remained firm. "It eats people alive." Michael couldn't help but feel a sting of warmth at his father's concern, yet the protective instinct only seemed to harden his resolve. "But Dad," Michael responded, "isn't that exactly why I need to be here? To learn how to fight back. To make a difference, however small." "Making a difference, it's more complex than you think," his father countered, frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "You're playing a risky game." Setting his jaw, Michael felt the edges of his plan begin to sharpen. While the thought of failure weighed heavily, so did the unyielding desire to try. "I'm aware of the risks, but if no one steps into that arena, nothing changes. And I can't sit on the sidelines anymore." The crowd had grown silent, their breaths held as the exchange continued. At that moment, Michael realized that the battle was not just between him and his father but also a struggle for the hearts of those waiting to be seen in the shadows of society. Jack stepped closer, his voice gently coaxing, "And we'll be there every step of the way. Together." Just then, a hand shot up from the audience, a nervous, scruffy man with a hopeful gleam in his eye. "But how do we trust you?" he shouted, his voice surprisingly powerful. A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd, and Michael felt the spotlight shift to him. This was the first true test of their mission. He had been given an opportunity to bridge the gap between fear and connection. Taking a deep breath, Michael met the man's gaze, feeling the pull of authenticity. "Trust takes time," he began. "But I promise to listen. To learn. I want to be a partner in your fight, not a savior." The man nodded slowly, hesitation dancing across his features. The uncertainty was palpable, yet a flicker of hope ignited in the eyes of those around him. A collective heartbeat thrummed in the crowd as they silently weighed his words. "Tell your stories," Michael implored. "Let me and let us help each other build something that lasts. Together, we can breathe life into this community." The energy in the room shifted, causing tears to glisten in some eyes, a few claps beginning to echo once more, as the crowd sensed there was something genuine here, something real. As Michael glanced over at Jack, a smile broke across both their faces, their silent pact forming a foundation. Yet, in that moment of victory, doubt brushed against the edges of Michael's consciousness. Would he have the necessary strength when the real hardships came crashing down? When the stories he unearthed became too much to bear? That question lingered just as the applause grew louder, a reminder that while the next chapter held promise, challenges awaited on the horizon. Just then, a woman stepped to the front of the crowd, her face illuminated with determination. "What if we speak up, and no one listens?" she asked, resolute. Michael held his breath, feeling the weight of that inquiry settle into his bones. What if their voices fell on deaf ears? Would they brave the storm of frustration together, or would they falter at the first sign of resistance? The air crackled with anticipation. They were teetering on the brink of something greater, yet it pressed on a question that could change everything. The buzzing atmosphere became electric as Michael absorbed the woman's question. The weight of it pressed down on him, firm and inescapable, almost like a weighty hand on his shoulder. He could see the rise and fall of breaths within the crowd, each set of eyes reflecting a mix of skepticism and yearning for change. "Great question," Michael finally said, his voice steadying with each word. "What if no one listens? What if we shout and we feel like our voices fall silent? But what if they do?" He stepped forward slightly, allowing the earnestness of his words to fill the space between them. "What if every voice matters, no matter how quiet it seems? We might not change the world overnight, but we can start here, today." The woman's brows furrowed, uncertainty still dancing in her eyes. Yet Michael saw a flicker of something. Maybe it was curiosity or perhaps just a hint of hope. "Let us begin with one story," he suggested, his voice inviting. "Just one voice. Who wants to share?" Silence filled the room once more, but it was a different kind of silence, less tense, more contemplative. After a moment, an old man with silver hair, his hands adorned with worn-out gloves, rose slowly from his seat. The way he stood, though shaky, showcased a hidden strength, unyielding against the years of hardship. "I will," he said, his voice gravelly but clear. "I might not look like much," he paused, a slight chuckle making its way through the crowd. "But I have a story." Encouraged by the laughter, Michael stepped back and motioned for him to continue. As the man began to speak, sharing tales of days long gone when hope had often felt distant, Michael felt the hearts in the room shift, beat after beat in unison. This was not just an old man talking, this was a bridge being formed. As the words flowed, the twinkle in the old man's eyes began to shine brighter. He spoke of losing everything in the wake of a storm that swept through his town, the loss of his wife and home, how he battled loneliness, and fought to find light in each new day. In vivid detail, he described finding community in the most unexpected places. The way strangers offered him food or shared a kind smile had reignited a flicker of hope when the world felt unbearably heavy. As the story continued to unfold, Michael felt the grip of vulnerability tighten around his heart. These were real stories, powerful stories. The kind of stories that painted pictures, of dreams buried yet not forgotten, of human connection sculpted from shared experiences. The air in the room grew thicker, an unseen force drawing everyone closer. People shifted in their seats, a symphony of emotions playing through their expressions. Laughter came at the right moments, punctuated with murmurs of understanding. When the old man paused, eyes glazing over with tears, the audience collectively held their breath, all waiting to hear his final thoughts. "It's about connection," he finished, his voice a whisper now, resonating with weight. "When we reach out, even when it feels like no one can hear us, we may just find someone willing to listen. This community, we're all in it together, and we aren't going anywhere." The silence wasn't awkward, it brimmed with possibility. Michael could feel the crowd stirring, energy building. They shared something deeper now, a thread of hope woven through each soul present. "See?" Michael said, glancing at Jack, then at the crowd. "One story can ignite a movement. Imagine if we shared a dozen more." Just like that, confidence surged within him. If they could help unlock stories hidden in the hearts of their community, perhaps change wasn't that distant after all. But then, the old man turned once more, fixing his gaze on Michael. "Just remember, young man, it's not just about the stories. Sometimes, it's the pain in them that weighs the heaviest. Are you ready for that?" A ripple of unease coursed through Michael, reminding him of the emotional toll ahead. Could he truly bear the weight of others' suffering? He stood there, heart pounding and thoughts racing. This was just the beginning, but the real challenge loomed closer, one that required more than just courage. Would he have the strength to sift through the shadows for the light? The crowd leaned in, breath suspended, waiting for his reply. The weight of the moment hung heavily in the air, and for a brief second, silence enveloped the room like a thick fog. Michael felt the intensity of the old man's gaze pierce through him, a silent challenge echoing within the crowded space. He had come here hoping to be a messenger of change, to ignite something within this community, but could he truly shoulder their stories? Taking a deep breath, he let his heart guide him. "I'm ready," he finally replied. The words felt like a promise hanging above their heads, a commitment to dive into the deep waters of pain and joy intertwined. With a soft nod, the old man smiled, his weathered face taking on a warmth that melted the tension in the room. "Good. Then let's not waste any more time. Who's next?" His voice rang out, stronger now, resonating through the crowd, pulling them in like moths to a flame. Before anyone could raise a hand, a young woman sprang from her seat. Her auburn hair danced with each step, and there was an urgency in her eyes, a need to share. "I have something," she exclaimed, her voice filled with an unsteady enthusiasm. "I've struggled too. My parents, they lost everything when I was in high school. It felt like the ground beneath us disappeared overnight." Michael felt a surge of understanding. Her fear and desperation echoed in the very fabric of his own life's struggles. "I didn't know how to cope. I watched them fight while I withdrew. I pushed everyone away, I even lost my friends." She paused, swallowing hard, tears sparkling against the harsh fluorescent lights. "But then one day, I found a stranger who smiled at me. That simple act made me realize I wasn't as alone as I thought." The crowd leaned in, captivated by her raw honesty. She continued, "I started volunteering at a shelter. I thought I was helping others, but really, it was healing me. With every story shared, I learned about resilience and that it's okay to be broken sometimes. We all are." As her voice rose, the energy in the room shifted again. The air was charged with empathy. Michael could see heads nodding, eyes reflecting familiarity and pain. "Thank you," she said finally, her voice breaking as she finished her story. "We can hold each other up when we let ourselves feel our pain." A few tears escaped from the corners of her eyes, and suddenly, others around the room found their own tears spilling forth, too unfurling like blossoms in spring. Michael stepped forward, feeling the collective heartbeat of hope. "See, this is what we need," he said, gesturing to the vibrant energy that connected them all in this moment. "These are the threads that weave our community together. Together, we can change the narrative." As the impact of the stories settled in, he glanced at Jack, who appeared visibly moved. It was a subtle yet distinct shift. Jack was joining the landscape of shared experiences, not just standing on the sidelines anymore. "Who else wants to share?" Michael asked, but before anyone could take a breath to respond, a man in the back, younger but weathered, raised his voice. "I have my story, too. It's not pretty but it's real," he said, the tremor in his voice resonating with vulnerability. The air thickened once more, a palpable tension lacing the atmosphere as Michael's mind raced. This was becoming something monumental, yet he couldn't shake off the lingering question. The weight of pain was vast, and they were just beginning to scratch the surface. Would they be able to bear the stories yet to come? Would hope anchor them or drown them in sorrow? Michael met the eyes of each person in the room, feeling the gravity of what lay ahead. The challenge was no longer just his, it was theirs. As the voice behind him ripped through the silence, he turned, ready to lean into whatever story awaited them, heart pounding, pulse racing. Could this be the turning point for everyone here? Or would they find that the shadows of sorrow could somehow lead to a deeper light? The young man's voice cut through the air, charged with emotion. He stepped forward, his shoulders hunched, like he was carrying the weight of the world. "It's not pretty," he began, his voice stumbling over the words. "But it's mine." As he spoke, everyone in the room fell silent, the energy shifting once more. Michael could feel the expectation hanging like a ripe fruit, ready to drop. The crowd leaned forward, a tapestry of faces focused on this newcomer, willing to unravel the story he was about to tell. "My name's Leo," he said, glancing down at his worn shoes before meeting their gaze. "I grew up in a good neighborhood, had every opportunity handed to me. Scholarships, a loving family." He paused, and for a moment, Michael saw a flicker of light and warmth in his expression. But that flicker faded quickly, leaving shadows behind. It all fell apart when Dad lost his job, Leo continued, a bitter edge creeping into his voice. I didn't think it'd affect us. But bills piled up, the house lost its warmth, we lost everything. I didn't see it then, but we were sinking. As Leo shared, a murmur of understanding rippled through the crowd. Michael's heart ached at Leo's revelation. The notion of losing stability echoed painfully in his own memories. I started skipping school, Leo's voice cracked. Friends didn't get it. They moved on. I was alone, ashamed. He glanced at the floor, shame slipping from his lips like a poorly wrapped gift. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. I just left. I thought, if I could just get away from the anger, from the loss, but the sidewalk became my bed. And I thought I had hit rock bottom. I was wrong. The room was silent, people leaned closer, captivated by his courage. Leo took a breath, eyes tracing the faces before him. I met a man on the street, Joe. Subtle gasps rippled through the audience, a collective awareness finding roots. Joe had nothing, but every morning he'd share his breakfast with me. He'd smile, tell stories that painted colors over our gray reality. Leo stared intently at a spot on the floor. He taught me to see hope even in the dark. The crowd was breathing with him, the story weaving threads of connection among them. Michael could feel Leo's vulnerability radiating, warming everyone's hearts. One day, I asked Joe, why do you care? He looked right into my eyes and said, because all we have is each other. Leo's voice caught, and he paused. Tears filled his eyes, glimmering like glass. I realized he taught me more about love and resilience than I'd ever learned in school. Each story layered over the others, creating a quilt of shared experiences. Michael watched as people exchanged glances, the power of vulnerability allowing walls to crumble, hearts to open. Thank you for listening, Leo said finally, his hands trembling slightly as he stepped back. I've learned that even when you lose everything, you still have the power to give. His words hung in the room, a palpable energy of transformation sparked among the group. Michael stepped forward, feeling a surge of hope swell within him. This is what we need, an embrace of our stories. Together, we find strength. A ripple of agreement flowed through the room, and Michael looked around, seeing fresh tears, open hearts, and faces willing to heal. The old promise of connection crackled in the air like electricity, but just as hope seemed to cradle them, an older woman stood, her face lined with years and burden. What if you base your hope on a dream only to lose it again? She questioned, a tremor in her voice. Her words resonated like a bell chiming in the stillness, and once again, the air shifted. Everyone leaned forward, waiting eagerly to hear this new story. What awaited them in the well of her experiences? Would this be a deeper wound, or an opening toward the light? Michael felt his heart race. They were on the verge of another revelation, another layer of healing. Would they hold hands and leap together, or would they falter in fear? The next story was reaching for the surface, and he could only hope they were ready to embrace it. The older woman stood taller, the weight of her years etched into her features. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but there was a strength in her stance. My name is Eleanor, she began, her voice steady despite the tremor. I've run a successful business for 30 years. It was everything I dreamed of. But dreams can turn into nightmares, can't they? A wave of empathy washed over the room. Michael could see it in their expressions, a shared fear flickering in their eyes, quickly smothered by the anticipation of her story. I was on top of the world. Until the day I got that call my husband was in an accident. She paused, the weight of her grief filling the air. It shattered everything. The business became my obsession. I poured myself into it, thinking success would fill the void. Her voice cracked like a fragile glass. But you can't ignore your heart forever. I saw profits, but I lost my family, my sense of home. My children grew distant. I didn't even notice they were slipping away until it was too late. The audience felt the ache in Eleanor's words. The room was wrapped in a heavy silence, each person lost in their thoughts. Michael's stomach nodded, knowing how easy it was to get lost in ambition and miss out on the things that truly mattered. When the business started to decline, I panicked, she continued, her tone shifting to one of desperation. I tightened my grip, cut corners, and pushed my employees harder. I thought I could claw my way back to the top. But instead, I pushed everyone away. There was a collective gasp at her admission. Michael could see nods of understanding ripple through the crowd. He felt the tension, how this was a shared universal experience, the fine line between success and loneliness. One day, I realized my life had become a shell. I was chasing shadows. But it took an encounter with a stranger to open my eyes. Eleanor inhaled sharply. It started when I met a homeless man named Marcus. He was sitting on the sidewalk outside my office building, with a sign that read, "Need help." I ignored him for weeks until one day, I didn't. Eleanor paused, looking up at the ceiling as if searching for a memory. I sat down beside him. We talked. I learned he was a musician. A beautiful soul once full of dreams, just like mine. He taught me that art is a reflection of life, one that gets shaped by experience. He wasn't asking for pity, he wanted to share his dreams. Her words hung heavily, pulling everyone into the moment. Michael's heart fluttered at this unexpected twist. How could a soul with so little teach someone who had so much? Marcus showed me that the greatest wealth isn't money. It's connection, empathy, sharing our stories. In those brief encounters, my world began to shift. I started to reevaluate what I'd truly lost and what still mattered. Eleanor's gaze swept across the group, her eyes filled with fire. I began to assess my priorities. I reached out to my children, opened up real conversations. I realized that success isn't a figure on a balance sheet, it's the love you cultivate in your life. A palpable energy filled the room, people nodding in agreement, moved by her transformation. Michael felt a warmth spreading through him, a connection forming that was increasingly stronger among this gathered group, each sharing their humanity. And now, Eleanor said, her voice rising, I'm here to say this, it's never too late to change what your story looks like. You can lose everything and still find a way back, even if it starts with a small act of kindness. The applause erupted, spilling over like joy itself. Michael joined in, his hands clapping as hope swelled within him. But before the energy could settle, a new voice echoed from the edges of the gathering. That sounds wonderful, but what happens when you can't even find the courage to start over? It was a young woman, her eyes fierce and defiant. Michael felt his heartbeat quicken again. Would they be ready to tackle this next challenge, or would the weight of fear pull them back? The next chapter of their shared journey was calling out, and he couldn't help but wonder who else would step forward to break the delicate silence. The room went still. Eleanor's ember-like gaze shifted to the young woman who dared to voice what was on everyone's mind. There was a moment, a fragile pause, where each heartbeat echoed, the tension thickening the air. That's a brave question, Eleanor replied, her voice steady. Facing the fear of starting over can feel like standing on the edge of a cliff, can't it? You want to leap, but what if you fall? Michael watched the uncertainty spread through the group, a wave of doubt threatening to pull them under. The young woman didn't back down. Exactly. It's easy to say, change your story, but what if you feel too lost? How do you find that courage? The weight of her words hung like a dense fog. Michael felt a rush of empathy for her. He could see flashes of defeat reflected in the faces of others. This was not just about Eleanor's story anymore, it was about every single person in this room. Eleanor took a deep breath, the kind that swells with hopes and memories. Sometimes, the leap doesn't have to be grand. It can start with acknowledging your fear. And trust me, that is its own act of bravery. But what if you've failed before? The young woman shot back, her voice rising with urgency. What if you're too scared to even try? Eleanor's gaze softened, her voice tinged with understanding. Failure isn't the end of your story. It's a chapter. Marcus once told me that every note we play leads to the next, no matter if we stumble. Courage is in the decision to play again, even with the mistakes. The young woman's eyes flickered, caught between vulnerability and anger. And what if it feels like all you've got left is mistakes? Then lean into those mistakes, Eleanor urged, her heart steady and true. Each one is a lesson, a rough draft of what will become your masterpiece. Don't let the past choke the life out of your future. The crowd stirred, the mood shifting. Resilience filled the air like the scent of rain after a long drought. Michael felt it building a shared momentum. These people, each with their own fears and failures, were beginning to realize that no one was alone. Seeing this change, Eleanor pressed on. You're not defined by what you've lost or where you've stumbled. It's in the getting back up that you find strength. That's what makes us human. It's how we connect. In the back, a man with tired eyes stepped forward, his voice hesitant but filled with sincerity. Married once. Thought it was forever, but now? Just a shell of what I used to be. His honesty was met with murmurs of support. Eleanor smiled gently, a warmth glowing in her expression. We've all faced those moments that scrape everything away until we're allowed to see what matters most. In that space is where growth begins. The conversation began to blossom, people sharing their own stories of loss, regret, and longing. One after another, they took turns, like stepping stones in a river, each confession a ripple that widened the bank of community. Michael felt a swell in his heart here. In this room, healing began with honesty. While the doubts flickered at the edges, the core was unwavering. Eleanor noticed the change too. What if we took this energy into our lives? She proposed. What if we held space for others struggling, just like we're doing here? Imagine the lives we could touch. A ripple of excitement sparked among them, hope reigniting. People began to share ideas, visions for what they could do to bring connection beyond this moment. But as the crowd buzzed with ideas, Michael's gaze zeroed in on the young woman, her expression softening. She looked pensive, considering something deeper. He wondered what was turning in her mind, what strength she might find when faced with her own truth. What if we start tonight? She said suddenly, her voice steady and filled with purpose. What if we take our fears and turn them into something beautiful? And just like that, the room erupted, excitement swirling faster, less about the fear of starting, more about the thrill of possibilities. As faces lit up and conversations ignited, Michael felt an exhilarating wonder pulse through him. Every heart in that room was beginning to beat a little louder, but as the energy crescendoed, a sudden peal of silence descended, hanging in the air as they turned toward the young woman, waiting for her next thought. What if we organize a community gathering? But, this time, let us not just share our stories. Let us bring life back to those who've lost it. Her words lingered, sending a jolt of anticipation through the crowd. Michael could already see the spark refusing to burn out. What would their first steps look like? Would this gathering change more than just their lives? Would it change their community? He felt hope rise again, ready for the next chapter to unfold. The night continued under a sea of dreams and whispered promises. Michael watched as ideas flowed like a rushing stream, each thought sparkling with fervor. It felt electric. They brainstormed plans, each heartbeat syncing with a purpose fueled by connection. Let us hold a block party. An enthusiastic voice cried out. We could create a space for music, food, storytelling, and let everyone share their experiences. Yes. Someone else chimed in, eyes brightening. We can build community alliances with local businesses. It'll be a celebration, a way for us to show we're all in this together. Michael could hardly contain his joy. It was transforming right before his eyes. This group, once filled with uncertainties, was now buzzing with potential. And through it all, Jack remained by his side, nodding as creative sparks flew. "You're lighting them up," Jack said quietly, leaning close. "They see you. You give them hope." Michael felt warmth flood through him. He had stepped out of the shadows, embracing fears he didn't even know were holding him back. In the crowd, faces were animated, spirits high. It felt like magic, like a glow illuminating the dark corners of their lives. As the plans took shape, Eleanor took a moment to address the group with heartfelt sincerity. "This gathering, it's more than just an event. It's an opportunity to embrace our vulnerabilities, so let us feed souls instead of just bodies. Let's share joys and fears. Let us become a family." The crowd erupted in cheers, invigorated by the promise of something beautiful. They could almost taste that future neighbors coming together, stories shared through laughter, and pain transformed into strength. Michael took a deep breath, feeling his heart race with hope. The realization hit him like a flash of sunlight. He wasn't just creating change, they all were. Together, they were crafting a community that celebrated authenticity, digging up shared struggles and building a foundation rooted in resilience. But in that bright moment, he felt an echo of doubt creep in, sharp like a thorn. Could this really work? Would people come together and open their wounds, or would fear keep them on the sidelines? That was when he locked eyes with Leo. The young man caught Michael's gaze and nodded slightly, as if nudging him forward, grounding him. In his eyes, Michael saw not just hope, but the weight of his own struggles lifting, ready for him to share the truth. Leo had taken one leap, and now it was Michael's turn. Emboldened, Michael stepped to the front. The buzz quieted, drawing attention toward him. "I want to share my story," he began, feeling the weight of his past wash over him like a tidal wave. "I have everything I could want, but I was lonely. I thought wealth could fill my heart." He gestured to Jack, smiling softly at his friend, "But what I found was connection. Jack reminded me of the warmth I'd been missing, the joy of reaching out." Jack's heart melted at those words, and for a moment, the crowd held its breath, something bigger simmering between them. "I used to be afraid to face my own shadows, afraid of what I might find. But now I see they're not just mine to bear. They are ours, as a community. And when we embrace those shadows together, we become stronger." A hush fell over the audience, the weight of vulnerability now a shared experience. "Let us create this event together, not as strangers, but as family," Michael continued, determination radiating from him. "I want to hear your stories, share joy, and bridge divides we've built over time. I want to learn from you, not as a wealthy man, but as a fellow wanderer seeking light." Tears glistened in several eyes, an emotional connection forming that silently wrapped around the group like a warm embrace. A woman in the back, face illuminated, called out, "Together we can push against our fears and create something real." More voices joined in, encouragement ringing throughout the crowd. "Yes. Together," echoed in a chorus, building momentum that reached Michael's heart. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice strong and steady. "Let us set a date. Let us dream big and make this happen." As cheers erupted, the energy shifted to exhilaration. Suddenly, what felt like a mountain to climb crumbled into stepping stones paved with possibility. Each challenge that lay ahead shrank in the warmth of camaraderie and vibrant connection. Michael's heart swelled as he looked around, watching friendships blossom where once there had been skepticism. This was the moment he had longed for, the moment to cross into the light with his newfound family. He caught Jack's eye again, a beam of pride shared between them. And in that instant, they both understood it was just the beginning. They were standing on the precipice of a beautiful journey, a journey not only for themselves but for everyone willing to share. "Let us meet here in a week," Michael exclaimed, excitement bubbling within him. "And let us bring our stories, our ideas, our hearts." As the crowd rallied around him, they joined together in a dance of hopes and dreams, laughter echoing against the cold city night. Just like that, the seeds of transformation had taken root. But even amidst the joy, a whisper of urgency lingered in the air, a need to remember, a need to act. An echo of gratitude for the people who had dared to share their pain, who had unveiled the raw truth beneath the surface. As Michael stepped back, the fire of connection ignited within him. He sensed a stirring in his soul, a promise of change not just for himself but an entire community. Together, they would forge their paths, embrace the difficulties, and dare to dream, hand in hand. And just before the night came to a close, a voice rang out through the murmurs. "Let us spread the word," someone suggested, excitement sparking in their eyes. "Why don't we make flyers, share them online, tell our friends, and invite everyone to join?" The energy surged, momentum building through the crowd, and they could feel it. It wasn't just an event, it was a movement. Michael felt it resonate deeply within him, a commitment not just to his journey but to the collective one they would embark upon together. In that rapturous moment, the air crackled with possibility. They were on the cusp of something beautiful, and with every heartbeat, each soul began to see their worth, the need for connection, the essence of being human intertwined, and just like that, a plan was set in motion, a plan that would breathe life back into their communities, and every person echoed a single unified purpose. Acting on it, they found joy in the dance of dreams and fears, finding empowerment through vulnerability, dancing to the rhythm of stories shared. The time had come, the moment to act, to embrace the uncertain journey ahead. And the world beyond those doors felt much less daunting now, brighter and open, ready to be embraced. This was at the threshold of a new beginning, together. And Michael smiled, radiant hope surging within as they stepped forward into brilliance, hand in hand. Now is the time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next wave of amazing stories like this. Leave a like now to boost the energy and help us reach more hearts. Comment your feelings about this epic transformation and what it means to you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this powerful connection. Your support makes the difference. Let us spread love together.